Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Chris looking once again at the Supernote A5X. This was the promised second video, following up on some other issues. One of the things that I'm not going to get around to today is to look at the way in which a Bluetooth keyboard pairs up with this in a way that is useful, because I wanted to show you a screenshot of my hands in live action typing and comparing that with what it looks like on the screen, the kind of lag involved. I do use a dirt cheap Bluetooth keyboard that I picked up at a charity shop in one of the demonstrations later on, but I need to figure out how to get more in the shot so that you can see what's going on live. And I do have a new Bluetooth mechanical keyboard, the key chrome, something like that, arriving in the post, and I will then upload another video with that. And the second thing that I wanted to just briefly talk about before getting into the menu today is who might be interested in this, because I was reflecting on this, and there are technophobes out there who get quite put off by all of the options that an iPad might bring. And some in the older generation as well, and it's not just generational. This is different people like different things, but certainly my parents' age tend to be really uncomfortable with iPads and having to learn a whole new platform and how it works. They just don't seem to have an intuitive grasp of how to use these devices. Now, for technophobes or for older folk, I think the A5X strikes a really, presents a really good option. You don't need to learn too much in order to use this. You're not going to be distracted by lots of different options and buttons, and I know when my parents are looking at a smartphone or an iPad, they're bewildered by all of the different options that you have, and this keeps things far simpler and is therefore much more usable. But for myself as well, I'm no technophobe, and I'm not that old yet. One of the benefits of having something like this instead of using an iPad is the way in which it minimizes distractions. Now, there's all kinds of work now in psychology on willpower and how it works, and one of the key discoveries, if you want to call it that, things that's been confirmed through testing, is that you only have so much willpower. And willpower isn't just the ability to do things, but also to not do other things. And that's to say, if I were to go outside into the garden with the purpose of reading a couple of articles with my iPad Pro, I know that at any minute I could go on my Facebook page and see if anybody's left a funny comment on my latest post, or I can quickly go to YouTube, or I can have a look at WhatsApp or whatever else it is. And the very fact that I'm not doing those things is also using up my willpower, and means that my reserves to actually produce is diminished. Depending on my frame of mind, that may not be a big hit, but it might be, because there are some articles that I just don't want to read. Maybe I'm marking essays, undergraduate students, and I really don't want to read those. That kind of distraction is detrimental to my health. But with this, if I go out in the garden with this and do some reading, not only is it better in the daylight to read this kind of e-ink device, because the distractions are cut down to an absolute minimum, the willpower that I have, the reserve, can be deployed productively. So that's one reason why having a device like this is, I find, really helpful. The first thing I wanted to do was to look at Word Runner and how that works on an e-ink device. I'll do the same with the Max Lumi, because Max Lumi has different settings for how the e-ink display is refreshed, and that may make it work. We'll see. But I'm just picking a book fairly at random here from my device. This is on my Android phone. Word Runner doesn't work with the Apple devices for whatever reason, which I find bizarre. Now, here, you can find the word runner. So here's a new book that I downloaded, and I'm going to use this one when I'm looking at the A5X. After Doubt, but the three little dots in the corner, and under there you have word runner, and this is what word runner looks like. So in the first part of this video, see, it speeds up a little bit, and it's actually really helpful, I think, to get through a lot of material. First part of the video, I'm going to look at how that works on the A5X. Then I wanted to look at the Mailbox and different ways of writing an email, and I'm going to try not to give away my own email or anybody else's email address in that. Then I was going to look at the way in which Word converts handwritten text into typed text, two different ways of doing that, to see how quick it is. And in the process, I did say I was going to briefly show you how the Bluetooth keyboard pans out and is used within composing an email, but it didn't work out too well, that part of the video. Apologies for that. As I say, I'll come back to that another time. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this video and find it useful. And I forgot something. I'm also going to compare the size of the A5X with a Kindle Oasis and a bunch of other devices, and hopefully that will help you make a decision if this is the right device for you. These comparisons from two different angles. Maybe one here. So here's the Supernote A5X in the one hand, and in the other hand is the Max Lumi. Here it is with the Paperwhite Kindle. This is I don't know what version this is. It's a very old Kindle Fire. Here it is with the iPad Pro. It's a few years old, and it's in a case, so it gives it a deceptively large look. But it's a real tricky business getting it out of that case, the iPad, so I didn't want to. Here is the A5X with the Kindle Oasis. And finally, this is an iPad mini, once again in a big case. So it is obviously smaller than this, but maybe that'll give you some idea of the sizes involved. So I'm gonna do one now with them lying flat. So here is the Supernote A5X next to the Kindle Oasis. On the Kindle Oasis, I've got this nifty little thing. I'll put a link in the video description. It is a very, very simple little elastic that wraps around the thick end, and if you put your finger then through it, it hangs on your hand. It's just great for reading. But anyway, that's beside the point. Kindle Oasis. Just so you get the idea of the screen size, let's open that up. This is next to the Max Lumi again. I'm running out of space here. So you can see. Quite a bit of difference in the screen size there. Not quite squeezing it all in. This is just a tad too low there. That helps. Now to the two Kindle devices. That's the old Kindle Paperwhite, and it is an old one. Here is one of the old Kindle Fires. It's the cheapest version. And I'll come up with a couple of other things that might be useful. Okay, just a few more things, fun things really. This is a nice bit of product placement. I'm not getting paid jack for this, but there we have. Let's move this a little bit further over now. Give you some idea of the size. Now, I don't know if any of you have used those very short introduction books. These aren't big, but you can get a good idea here of the screen size. And, because why not? My book. It is kind of similar. It's taller but not as wide. Anyway, a few size comparisons. Okay, I also wanted to show you something within Kindle that might be news to folk. I haven't tried downloading an audio book in this and pairing a Bluetooth headphones. I'd be interested to know if you find whether that works or not. But this is a book I bought a couple of days ago, After Doubt, recommended by a friend on Facebook. But the issue I wanted to explore is Word Runner. Now, this works really well on an iPad. I wanted to see if it works well here. What it does is it flashes a word in front of you, but just one in the middle of the screen, and it goes through sentences. It avoids you having to do the jumping with your eye, so you can technically read faster. And I've got to say, I've gone through a very, very large book. I'm using it to prop up my monitor at the moment. It's so big. It's thousands of pages long, and I used something very similar on the PC. The actual one on the PC is called Sprint Reader, and that does exactly the same. This sort of, what is it, RSVP, Rapid Serial Visual Presentation, or something like that. That's an advanced one. Kindle has its own version, and I'll show you that now. And let's just see if it works with an e-ink device screen. Let's just speed it up a bit. This is not 475. Let's try and restart it. Yeah, it's not working quite right. You can see it's actually skipping words. So if I go back to a slower speed. No, that can't be understood. So, okay, this doesn't work on an e-ink screen, at least not on the A5X. So if that's your way of reading, you'll have to make it much slower. Yeah, even then, it doesn't seem to work. The refresh rate of an e-ink device just doesn't seem to lend itself to that particular option of using Word Runner. So here I am in the Mailbox and using the Compose tab. I'm keeping it here because if I were to be in my inbox, my email address, my friends' email addresses would all be on the internet, so I'd rather not. But the good thing about this is that it remembers the email addresses that you've already used, and you could just add them here. So it's a quick addition. I don't think you have the same option on the Max Lumi, at least for their pre-installed version. The attachments, you can attach any of the Word documents, image files, or note files. And rather impressively here, you have handwriting and keyboard input, and you can use a couple of different backgrounds as well, which is very useful. So let's just see how this works. So it uses as a standard, by the way, and you can't change it at the moment, this pen, so it isn't the one I typically use. I forget what it's called now. So dear X, your YouTube video, that's a video, sucks. Sincerely, Chris. And you can create another page, maybe thank you for your critical feedback. You can obviously change the template that goes behind it as well. Anyway, this is a good example. There's 2 pages. I'm going to send that to an email address now, and we'll see how it shows up. Okay, so here I am now with keyboard input. Let's see how it works. So, go back here. Can I select a whole word? Don't seem to be able to. But you get the idea there, and you can switch, of course, to letter recognition, I suppose. Let's just see what happens here. What do we do now? Live text recognition, like that. Very interesting. So, dear YouTube. Not too bad. Thank you for watching. What about if I go underneath? This. Okay. Video. Yeah, not perfect, but then my handwriting is far from perfect. Right, now I'm going to link up the Bluetooth keyboard. So I went into the settings and linked this very, very cheap Bluetooth keyboard that I got from a charity shop for about £1. So there's nothing to write home about. In fact, I've got a nice one coming in the post. It hasn't arrived yet. It's going to be a proper mechanical keyboard, Bluetooth one, which I'm looking forward to because I use a mechanical keyboard with my PC. Anyway, let's just try and write something, see how well it comes across. If I were to type over here, am I in screen? Let's move this a little bit that way. And the keyboard as far as I can here. Oh, you can see some of it. Alright, this isn't a high-tech video. This. There's a little bit of a lag. that's really, oops, but that's really manageable. I don't mind that. It's entirely usable. This option here, is that an option? No. So you can't change the keyboard yet. Ah, yeah, that's right. I did hear that there are going to be some updates in that regard. But as yet, it seems to be only the English keyboard. Perhaps that has to do with the language settings. Okay, time to showcase the Word file options. It was again on script recognition, so I can write things here and it will get put into text there. Keyboard, or alternatively, you just write straight onto the screen. So once upon a time, there was a turnip called Bob. No idea what I'm doing. Double tap, and it is now recognizing that. Bear in mind my handwriting isn't the best in the world. My using this has shown it's actually pretty accurate. Okay, once upon a time there was a turnip called Bob. You can also use the functions, and they have all of that. There's plenty of videos on this. Absolutely fascinating how you can actually edit these texts by adding in certain symbols and so on. It's really very well done, but I won't get into that now. It's simply to show how well the text can be recognized. As I mentioned here, however, you can do it live. So we have a little space, and let's continue our story. Bob was popular with the... That was terrible. Let's see if it manages to recognize it. It did. With the Lady Turnips. This is a masterpiece in the making. Yeah, not perfect. Pretty sure there was an S making that turnip plural. But you get an idea here of the way in which the text is recognized. The more you write, the longer it takes. They are working on doing some online conversion, which will speed it up tremendously, because this is all native. This is not online. Let me write a little bit more and show you just how long it takes to convert, and we will speed up.
If I were you, aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should. I make a real good song out of you, time is ticking slow. Yes, to overdue, aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should. I mean, I really think you should, yeah.
So, back to normal speed. Let's see how long it takes to recognize this. And we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting a bit more. This book might be published one day, and you would have been there to witness its birth. Birth of Bob Turnip. Still waiting. As I say, this is native to the A5X. It takes a lot longer when there's more text. And as you will see, because my handwriting is so shite, it isn't optimal. Okay, and the Lady Turnips all wanted babies with Bob, but in truth Bob was more interested in playing with his new super roll A5X. Bob was sad that he didn't have the Heart of Metal pen and had to use. Not too bad. Obviously you'd have to go back and edit it, but that gives you an idea of what you're dealing with. So that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you found it useful. Leave a comment if you have a question. Perhaps I can answer that by demonstrating from the device itself. I've got a few ideas for the future. Some upcoming releases like how to create a template, step-by-step guide, among other ideas. So subscribe if you want to be notified when they're released. Otherwise, don't forget, this isn't a community, it's a YouTube channel. And let me leave you again with another piece of inspirational input.